What's going on, NFTV family? This your host 44K. K stand for Kincaid. Yo, I'm coming to you all today with some information that you probably already see on the screen. NYC Troy Ass testifies about fatal shooting at T.I. concert. I'd rather die fighting. That was, I quote, I'd rather die fighting. That's what Troy Ave says. So before we go any further, just want to first and foremost thank you all for tapping in with me. Thank you all for consistently coming in, checking out these videos. I appreciate it. I'm very grateful that you guys take the time out your day to listen to me, and hopefully you guys will like, subscribe, share, and get down in those comments so we can just have a conversation about these different topics on a daily basis. But without further ado, let's get into the topic. So a lot of you might not know this happened about 7 years ago. A popular podcaster, one of the guys that was one of the trailblazers actually on this hip hop podcasting thing before the wave even really took off, a guy named Tax Tone. So Tax Tone had a running beef with a rapper named Troy Ave. That beef came to a head at a T.I. concert back in the VIP area. Troy Ave's bodyguard best friend ended up getting killed from that altercation. Now all this might sound like something that would just normally happen in a urban environment, a street situation, but where this situation allows me to have a conversation with you all about is the fact that Tax Tone, a street dude, podcaster, talks about hip hop, all these other things, didn't have a legitimate reason to have beef with Troy Ave. His reason was, oh, you claim to be a street dude. I'm gonna test your gangster every time I see you. I'm gonna pull your card on air and apply pressure to you every time I see you. That's one end of it. Now on Troy Ave's end of it, Troy Ave is now in the situation where a dude that used to be a rapper out of the Brooklyn area raps about, street things, drugs, all this different type of stuff, but made a lot of his money when he was gaining his fame about 7 years ago as a rapper. So then the situation happens in the T.I. At the T.I. concert, his best friend ends up getting killed. They initially, because the video caught him on camera firing the gun back at Tax Tone, they initially charged him with murder. But then after all the evidence came out, they dropped those charges versus him for attempted murder and put them on Tax Tone. So Troy Ave, 7 years later, has the opportunity to testify. Now, where it gets a little bit tricky and where I get a little bit agitated with this whole situation is because you have this narrative that if you are a rapper, an entertainer, or even a regular civilian in black culture, that you can't tell the police. It's considered snitching if you tell the police. So me growing up, my understanding of snitching was if you are a criminal or you operate in criminal behavior and you have homies or a crew or gang members and you guys are doing those crimes together and one person gets caught and then he tells on everybody else, that's a snitch. That's a snitch. But as time has went on, the term of snitching has ballooned out of control. So somebody like me or somebody like you or somebody else that may work a 9 to 5, pay taxes, clock in, come home to wife, kids, maybe they live by themselves, but they're paying taxes, they're paying bills, they're not doing nothing in the streets. They might live in the hood, but they're not doing nothing in the streets. All of a sudden now, it's considered snitching if a crime is committed against you and you call the police, they're calling you a snitch. Now, what sense does that make? What sense does it make if in a community where you're surrounded by crime, violence, and everything, you're trying to do the right thing, you're trying to live the right life, you work a 9 to 5, you pay your taxes, you pay your rent, you pay your bills, but then when a crime happens to you and you're not supposed to call the police because then you're considered a snitch, but you're not living that street lifestyle. So how do you get justice? How do you get justice? Because if it was a street person and they a gang member or somebody, a doughboy, somebody like that, then you could understand that, okay, they're going to get their own justice. So instead of calling the police and letting them know, okay, who did it and whatever, they're going to enact a certain type of vigilante justice and get that type of justice. Even in the past, let's talk about when these gangs first started. You had situations when back in the day, in the 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, when you had a situation when the police departments were so racist, and you had other people from other neighborhoods, non-black individuals or whatever, even in Italian neighborhoods or even in Irish neighborhoods, you had gangs to enact justice for the neighborhood. These original gangs that you find out about, like Crips, Bloods, things of that nature, they started out as community groups to protect the neighborhood against people coming into the neighborhood, robbing people, bullying people, intimidating businesses, and things like that. And then they morphed into the criminal aspect as time went along, and that goes for Irish and Italian gangs also. Their original purpose was to protect the neighborhood. They served the neighborhood. But as things get out of control, and this is not strictly to black gangs, it goes to all gangs. As things get out of control, they have to find ways to earn money. So they earn money through robbery, they earn money through extortion, they earn money through intimidation, number running, all these different things. Then they become a cancer to the neighborhood. So once they become a cancer to the neighborhood and they're no longer protecting the neighborhood, what loyalties does someone have that's a regular citizen to them? Because who do you turn to? If a crime is committed against you and you can't go to the gang and ask for protection because the gang is the one that committed to the crime, or you can't ask them to inflict some type of justice because they're the ones that committed the crime, and then if you call the police, then you're considered a snitch. What do you do? That's where the trick bag comes into play. So you have, in the black community, you have a situation now to where everyone wants to say, "Oh, I'm not calling the police. I ain't no snitch. I ain't no snitch, whatever." So then you're held captive in your own community because all this crime and violence is going on around you. You can't call the police because now you're looked at as a snitch. Then you have a situation where a beef has been perpetuated between the black community and the police officers. The police don't want to come into the neighborhood and police because nobody wants to talk to the police. Nobody wants to help the police or anything like that. And then you end up stuck without justice being served, and the criminals are empowered because they know that no one's going to call the police on them. Nothing's going to happen. So then it's the deterioration of that community because now you have a situation, if no one's being held accountable for the actions, for the crimes that are being committed against the people in community, they just run wild because no one's being held accountable, because this narrative about snitching has taken over to where now you have civilians scared to be considered snitches because they want some type of justice. Me, myself, personally, I pay taxes. I go to work. I work hard. I'm not living any type of criminal lifestyle. I don't hang around criminals or people in gangs or people doing any type of fraud or anything like that. So I'm not putting myself at risk to be associated with that type of behavior. So if something happens to me and I pay taxes and my taxes help to pay city, government, state workers, then I want justice. And how do I get that justice? I call 911. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm sorry. That's what I'm gonna do. Call me a snitch, call me whatever you wanna call me, but I want justice. If somebody is coming in my community, terrorizing my community, robbing, breaking into cars, doing these other type of things, I'm calling the police because I know myself. I'm not going out into the street and going to enact justice myself. And that's the mental disease that has taken over the community that I'm from, the black community, where you are allowing yourself to be victimized because you want to stand up to this standard of not being a snitch when you have people who are committing these crimes that know they're not going to be held accountable, and if somebody sees something they're not going to say nothing. But let's get to this article right here. I'm just going to touch on it real quick, and then I'll come back and we'll kick it a little bit more. So as I read earlier, Troy Ave testifies about fatal shooting at T.I. concert, I'd rather die fighting. Rapper Troy Ave on Monday gave Manhattan jurors a gripping account of his life and death struggle with rival Tax Tone for the gun used to kill his bodyguard during a 2016 scuffle at Irving Plaza. The Brooklyn-born musician, whose real name is Ronald Collins, testified at Tax Tone's murder trial that he chose to fight back after he was shot and wounded backstage melee on May 25th, 2016. If it's a fight or flight, I'm always going to fight because at the point you could die, Collins, 37, said in a Manhattan Supreme Court. Collins described a grappling with Tax Tone, a hip-hop podcaster whose real name is Daryl Campbell, over the gun. It looks like if you see people wrestling in high school, wrestling, that type of position. When the shot goes off, I see the light from a spark and I hear the shot, he testified. This is all happening fast. I get up, start fighting Tax Tone, trying to take him, grab the gun, and another shot goes off. I put my leg up to kind of block the shot from hitting me in the face or the chest. That's when Campbell shot him in both legs, he told jurors. I got up, Collins said, I'd rather die fighting. People die from leg shots. I'd rather die fighting than laying on the ground. I got up immediately. Collins finally got his hands on the gun, got his fleeing rival in his sights, only to have the weapon misfire, he testified. Only then did he notice that his pal and bodyguard, Ronald Banga McFadder, lay on the ground face down. I rolled his body over and I'm like, Banga, get up. Come on. I'm smacking him like, come on, bro, get up. Collins testified, and his eyes were rolling to the back of his head. His shirt was red, so I could tell he got shot. 2 bystanders were also wounded during the shooting in the crowded VIP room at T.I.'s concert, and Collins was initially hit with attempted murder and gun possession charges for his role in the incidents. Campbell, 37, is now on trial on murder, attempted murder, assault with weapons possession charges. Collins' lawyer told the Post that prosecutors promised him a 1-year sentence instead of 15 years he could have faced in exchange for his testimony at Campbell's trial. A running feud between the two artists finally boiled over the night after Collins said he and McFadder walked into the VIP room before he was scheduled to join T.I. on stage and saw Campbell. He said there were about 100 people packed into the room when he heard Campbell shout out, "What's poppin'?" in what he perceived to be a threatening way. Banga turns around to see and says, "I'm gonna rock him," which means I'm gonna hit him, Collins testified. And then I wink at him. I tell him, "Do your thing." He said that when Campbell reached for his waistband and pulled a gun, prompting to fight that ended with McFadder dead. In the aftermath, Collins said concert goers started to flee when someone yelled that cops were coming. I'm like, No, F that. No, F that. I'm staying with him, he told jurors, referring to McFadder. Campbell was charged in January 2017 after police said they found his DNA on the 9mm handgun used in the shooting. I can protect myself as a man, so I'm not thinking about rolling with six goons, Campbell told detectives, said after his arrest, according to court papers. When I see you walking up with six dudes, bang, bang, ba, ba, ba. So that's just a quick little rundown of the situation. Um, I think this situation just allows for a greater conversation, and that greater conversation is: do you feel that Tax Tone is in the wrong in in testifying in the death of his friend? It was only one person that had a gun in that situation, and that was Tax Tone. It was only one person that ended up dying, and then there was another person, and then Troy Ave ended up getting shot in both legs. So all this violence happened because one person decided to bring a gun. Your best friend ends up dying, and according to some mythological street code, you're not supposed to testify to get justice for your dead homie. I don't understand that. But let's see. A tweet was said he did exactly what he was supposed to do. Tax killed his best friend off pure hate. These street dudes create make believe monsters to justify their hate of another man's success, and got a bunch of weirdos in the comments calling him a rat. What do y'all even stand on? If you wouldn't even seek justice for your best friend, what do y'all even stand on if you wouldn't even seek justice for your best friend? Because I know for a fact y'all ain't handling it in the streets. You're not built for that hand to hand work, for real, for real. So what I take from that tweet is what do you stand on? Like, what do you stand on? Because if you don't stand on something, you will fall for anything. So what do you actually stand on? If someone kills your best friend, they're trying to pin a case on you to where you can do 15 years in prison, and you're supposed to just take it on the chin, do the 15 years, mourn your friend, and then this guy gets to walk free with time served after all that because you want to stay loyal to some street code. Let me give y'all some information y'all might be aware of or y'all might not be aware of. All these mafia dudes that you guys are named, that people name themselves after and rap about in these rap songs, all these dudes, they're the reason why the mafia isn't what it is now is because most of those mafia dudes got to snitching. Sammy the Bull, most of those mafia dudes got to snitching bad. That's how they took them down. So people claiming that the mafia don't snitch, this and that. All these dudes, when the pressure is applied, these dudes work with the FBI, and they end up going down. There's no happy ending to this type of lifestyle. You're either dead, or you in jail, or you cooperating with the police. So we need to get this whole little snitch narrative together, because if you're a civilian and you're a hardworking American and you pay your taxes, then you have the right to call police if something happens to you, and you should call police if something happens to you, because it's about time that we feel safe in our own community. And I'm tired of these individuals being able to walk scot-free without any type of accountability while our neighborhoods continue to decay. We got little kids getting killed in our neighborhoods. No one wants to tell the police. We got just senseless violence happening in our neighborhoods because this type of problem has gotten completely out of control. So we have to be, if we want to hold police accountable for things that happen with the police, then we need to also be able to hold ourselves accountable and have these real style conversations inside and outside of our community about holding people accountable for the crimes that they commit. Because I want to see the outrage and the disgust and the protest from Black Lives Matter and other groups when we kill each other. because it should be just as many out. It should be just as much outrage for a black person killing a black person as it is for a cop killing a black person, because it's still violence in our community and it's still a lost life in our community. So before I close out, man, let me know what y'all think down in the comments. Like, subscribe, share this video. Tell me what y'all think about this whole little snitch culture. What would you all do if you were in a situation, if your best friend got killed, and are you somebody that would handle it in the streets, or are you somebody that will call the police? And if the time comes for you to testify, would you testify? Let me know. Get down in these comments. Share, like, subscribe. I'm your boy 44K. The K stand for Kincaid. God bless. Good night.